time to dip our toes in some Big Sky action across the board, volleyball, soccer, and football as well. So big opponents coming up. We host 2 home volleyball matches this weekend, and then obviously on the road for soccer and on the road for football. We'll play Montana in the battle for Little Brown Stein. Evening game in Missoula on ESPN2. Vandals own the series overall, and look forward to get right back at it there in Missoula on Saturday night. Coach Ford will open with opening statement, and then we'll go to questions. We do have a mic for you guys to ask questions so that they can be heard on the stream. So thank you. Coach Ford.
Thanks, Jarek. Thank you guys all for being here today. Obviously coming off a very tough loss to a FBS opponent. You know, it was a very good San Jose State team, very good on offense. You know, they were picked 3rd in the Mountain West this year for a reason in their preseason poll. And we just did not make enough stops to get the job done. Thought there was a lot of really good things in the game. You know, offensively, you know, we did a great job throwing it, having great balance. I thought Joshua Wood had another really good game. He had some young wide receivers really step up as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing this group bounce back and get after it. When you really look at our season so far, you know, we're really, 6 points away from being 4-0 and having 2 FBS wins. So we feel like our group is on the right track with what we're doing. We're very excited about our process and just got to tackle a little bit better and make a few plays on defense. And I think that game, goes the other way. Looking forward to this weekend. Obviously, very big matchup with a storied rival in Montana. Started playing this game back in 1903 and started playing for Little Brown Stein back in 1938. And so I know as an assistant, it was pretty awesome getting that thing and taking it back to Moscow. And I know also as an assistant, it hurt pretty bad seeing them leave with it here in Moscow back in 2023. So very excited for the matchup. It's going to be a big time game, ESPN game, Big Sky game of the week, all these great things. But at the end of the day, it's our first Big Sky conference game. And that's what matters the most out of all the hype. I think the thing that matters the most for our guys is just we're into Big Sky play and our goals are still at hand. So very excited about the matchup and want to open it up to you guys for any questions you have about last week or moving forward.
Before we get to the game this week, just how would you sum up the non-conference portion of your schedule? What did you see from your team in those 4 games?
I think what I did see from my team is we're very competitive and we're going to fight no matter who we're playing. We, again, lost to 2 FBS teams by last-second field goals. Obviously not any way you want to lose, and there's no moral victories, but, we're right there. We can play with, I think, higher caliber FBS teams, which I think tells you a little bit about our talent and our resolve. And what I do see is our guys fighting and preparing like champions every week.
Big picture, what do you think of the Big Sky this year? What's it going to take for the team, whatever team, to come out on top? What are they going to have to do?
Well, stay healthy. Number one, I think this league is loaded. There's a bunch of teams right now that look like they have a chance to, contend for that title. And I know that we're one of them. Definitely staying healthy. And I think, taking care of the football is always 2 things that are going to really help you, especially at the end of the year. And then you got to be physical and you got to be able to play defense. And so I think those are the things that you'll really see the champion of this league do by the end of the season.
Yeah, Coach, you said after the game that you guys didn't tackle well. How you guys approach this week in practice and tackling?
Yeah, I just think, we're not going to go out there and do a bunch of live tackling. I don't think that's the answer. I think we got to have a better emphasis in our tackling posture. I think we got to emphasize a few tackling circuits, just things in regular individual drills to emphasize, great posture and finish. But at the end of the day, sometimes tackle's about want to, and you just got to go make it happen, right? And I think our guys have acknowledged that, and I think you're going to have a group that's pretty fired up to make it happen this weekend.
Will there be any personnel changes, and how do you keep these guys accountable?
There's always personnel changes, with injuries, with the way guys are playing, other guys progressing. I can't think of any specific ones off the top of my head, but I know there's always going to be competition throughout the week.
And what about kicking? Do you see kicking as a liability, and how do you go forward this season approaching kicking?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a liability. We had a player that hadn't performed as well as we had hoped, but we have other players that are willing to step up and ready to step up. And I know that those guys are ready for their opportunity, but certainly something we want to shore up this week.
Seems that even with a 2-2 record, that every quarter has been really competitive so far.
Yep.
Even Washington State, obviously, last weekend coming down right to the end of it. What do you think has kept your team that level-headed and competitive week after week, even with up and down results in the win-loss column?
Well, I think they really believe in each other. You know, they're a group that's very together, and I think they look, left and right and see someone that they believe is going to get their job done. And that belief, I think, can take you a long way in a Big Sky season, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, you got to execute, and moral victories are not victories we want, right? Well, they don't count on our record. They don't help us get into the playoffs. So although we've done some very good things against some quality opponents, there's still a lot left to do in terms of the work, but very excited about the way they're sticking together. And I think that's really what's been able to have this group be so competitive in every game.
How advantageous do you see it to have Montana be the first Big Sky school you play right after playing an FBS opponent, having a tough non-con?
Yeah, I think you want to play the best of the best, and so it doesn't really matter when you play them. I think our guys would be up for this game whether we played them week 1 or week 12. It's a storied rivalry, and I know that the guys, especially our veteran guys that have been here and have take place in this game over the last few years, it's been highly competitive, right? 1-score games in each of the last 2 contests, and so having them for week 1 is great, just because it gives you a really good idea of where you're at in the Big Sky.
And last for me, talking about at least back a couple weeks with Utah Tech and other penalties were good in that game. Not very many. It was more disciplined than last few weeks, but then had a bunch more penalties this
Sure.
week. I mean, how did that, sort of from your perspective, go?
Well, I'm not that concerned about penalties that aren't pre or post snap. I mean, we had a couple of holding penalties. We got called for a leaping penalty that was very subjective. But the 5 pre-snap penalties is where we really got to improve, right? We had 4 on offense and then 1 on defense that actually kind of hurt us in terms of field position for that last second field goal. So just continuing to make sure that we're being disciplined, Sunday through Friday, not just showing up on Saturday thinking we can be disciplined. So again, just continuing to work on all the little things, touching the line, being early for everything. Those are things that I think really help with your discipline.
Yeah, Coach, you kind of mentioned you've been in some tight games this year. Inside a top 10 matchup, how would playing in these tough games early kind of help you inside the game Saturday and then going on to the Big Sky?
Yeah, I think for sure on a game like Saturday, it's going to help, right? It should be a tight game. It's going to be, ebbs and flows, and that's what you have to live through in those tight games. And I think unless you go through it, it's hard to learn it. And I think that's something that our guys have definitely got a lot of experience in, right? We're going to go back and forth. It doesn't matter if the lead changes. It doesn't matter if you're down. You're going to keep playing because the only snap that really matters is the next one. But I definitely think it helps playing those games early, especially getting into the Big Sky slate and then in a game like this.
Yeah, and then inside your opening statement today, you mentioned about some of your young wideouts stepping up. Kind of speak about Ryan Jezioro.
Yep.
And kind of speak about his development over the first 4 games.
Yeah, I think there's a couple plays he wants back in the game. He had a couple drops in the game, but I remember telling him on the field, hey, we're going to need you, and I know you're going to make a play. And that's the type of confidence we have in Ryan. And I think you're seeing his confidence continue to build as a result. He's really becoming a receiver that can do a little bit of everything and certainly turning into a deep threat as well. So his development has been really kind of on course where we thought it'd be, maybe a little ahead of schedule, even where we thought he'd be, but definitely excited about that progress.
San Jose was pretty quick. Is it helpful going from a game like that directly to a game like Montana? Does that kind of speed you up a bit?
What do you mean by quick? Do you mean
Well, they were fast. They like to play all over the field.
Oh, you talking about their offense? Yeah. I mean, San Jose State's offense definitely up tempo. Whether they snap it fast or not, they're going to get lined up fast. And so I think it definitely helps having a full game of that experience where you've got to hurry up and get the call, get lined up with the call, and based off their formation, and then go execute the call. So it certainly helps playing an up-tempo team, especially an up-tempo team with so much talent.
Can you give us a bit of a scouting report on Montana, what you expect from them?
Yeah, good football team. I mean, they're going to be physical on offense. They've got running back, number 10, that I think is a very good player, one of the better players probably in all of FCS football. Number 6, their wide receiver, Michael Wortham, came from Eastern Washington. I remember him from my time as a special teams coordinator, kind of got after us in the kick game. I know he did last year as well, returned a kickoff to the house. But, I mean, they use him in a bunch of different ways. Wildcat. I mean, he's going to be playing, obviously receiver, but they get it to him in space, and I think he's a very dangerous player. I think their quarterback is playing with a lot of confidence right now, and they've got a big offensive line and some tight ends. So I mean, offensively, they're I think one of the top teams in the country. I know they're the top in the Big Sky, so it's going to be a challenge for us offensively. Defensively, they've got a tricky defense. They are a little bit non-conventional with how they play. They're going to blitz you from every angle. Sometimes I don't know if they're gap sound, but it doesn't matter because they cause a lot of havoc as a result. So they definitely pose some challenges offensively and defensively. And then, Coach Hauck, he's going to do a great job with those special teams. He's a big special teams guy, and they've been very good on special teams ever since I've been around this program, and I see it being no different this week. So what you see is, a lot of hopefully strength on strength, right? I think they're pretty decent stopping the run, but we're pretty good at running it. Right? I think they run it pretty good. I think we're pretty good at stopping it. So I think you're going to see some strength on strength matchups this weekend.
You talked about the kicking game and special teams a little bit already. Cameron Pope missed a field goal. What went into the decision to send him back out there, give him another shot after a couple misses last week as well?
Well, a lot of what we're seeing in practice, right? A lot of what people don't see is what happens in practice. And Owen has been very good for us, but he had just struggled a little bit on the right hash. It was a right hash play. It was a judgment call by Coach Fendel, our special teams coordinator, and it obviously didn't result in what we wanted, but something that we had looked at all week in practice. And I think, moving forward, we'll probably have a little bit more confidence in Forsman, just getting him ready. He's continuing to work on it, and hopefully has another great week this week, and we can play him for the most part kicking our field goals.
Looking back on the years of this rivalry against Montana, when you were an assistant, Bobby Hauck made a pretty big show of celebrating when they took back the Little Brown Stein.
Sure.
Is that something that sticks out to you? Do you remember that? Is that motivating?
Very much so. I remember thinking that as an assistant in 23, I was just so mad that we weren't going to play him in 24 because you didn't even have a chance to take that thing back. I just know the feeling of having it, and I know the feeling of losing it. And the feeling of having it's a lot better. So that's what we're after, and it's definitely something that's stuck with me since 2023.
Is that something that maybe you've told the team about to kind of add to the motivation in this rivalry?
Yeah, just the way our schedule works, we haven't got a chance to talk much with our team as a group. But when we meet tomorrow, that's certainly on the agenda for sure, no doubt.
You've talked about knowing Bobby as a coach, obviously being at this program before. Mm-hmm. Just from your view, from an outside perspective, what has led to the success of the Grizz program under him?
Coach he's a great coach. I mean, and he's been an awesome to me personally as an assistant, and then when I got this head job, very supportive of what we're doing over here. And obviously, there's no friends on Saturday, but I think he does just such a great job because of the work he puts in. I mean, the guy's going to work really hard. He's going to have a group that's physical. He's going to have a group that's going to be executing at a high level, and they're going to play really hard. I mean, that's a group that isn't going to give up. You saw it in their game versus North Dakota. I mean, they're down pretty much the entire game and end up coming back and winning that football game. So I think he's teaching some good stuff over there in terms of grit and those guys getting them ready to play every week.
You have some players on this roster that were there when last time you guys went out to Missoula, and obviously you were here as well. How do you get the guys ready who haven't played at Washington Grizzly? Because it's a different animal out there. It
is a different animal. It's probably one of the loudest places in all of FCS football. Shoot, I've coached in Power 4 stadiums that are much quieter than that place. And so they're going to have a ruckus crowd. They're going to be, excited and in the game the entire 4 quarters. And so I think you get them ready by kind of sharing the experience. You talk about it a little bit, you share it with them. Obviously you practice with great crowd noise when we're on offense, and you try to do everything you can to get them ready. But at the end of the day, that field is the same size, no matter where it's at, no matter how loud it is, and you got to execute between the stripes.
Yeah, my last question, not even just specifically on this game, but we always talk about the team that's going on the road, the environment's going to shut them down. But is there a way to feed off the energy when there's a crowd of,
Oh, yeah.
that many, cheering against you?
No question. I mean, I'd much rather play in front of a visiting, being the visitor with a big crowd than no crowd, right? It's almost like, whatever juice they're creating for their team, they're creating for us too. I think our guys will feel that energy, feel the buzz, feel the excitement of the game, and really, I think gives you just a little bit extra when you step out on the field.
Last week you were 5 for 5 from fourth down. Is this aggressiveness something we're going to see going forward?
No doubt. There's no question. We want to be aggressive as we can. We really believe in our offense, and we believe in our analytics. We practice these things weekly. We get ready for these scenarios. Coach Linehan has plenty of plays on his play sheet for those situations. And so as long as we feel like the game is going how the book trends, then we'll be pretty aggressive in those fourth down calls.
What kind of analytics do you guys study for the fourth downs?
Well, it's kind of a game book that we get from a Championship Analytics is the company's name, but we've been using that since Coach Eck was here, and it's something that we use very frequently. We study it all week, and we feel very confident in those fourth down calls when we make them.
What kind of things are you and Coach Dennison telling the defense approaching this game against Montana?
Well, I think we can't be so up and down. We show that we can be a great defense, and then, in games that we hadn't played as good of defense, thankfully we're 1-1 in those games. But, most recently we just didn't tackle well enough, right? We need to do a better job tackling. We have to have a mentality of, hey, we're not going to wait for someone else to make a play. We're going to go make the play. And I think our guys are really excited for that challenge. I think especially the leaders in that group, when Coach Dennison was talking about it yesterday, you could see kind of the fire in their eye, man. They want to be the guy that makes that play. And so at the end of the day, you got to go tackle. And on offense, you got to go block. I mean, it's still fundamental football, even when you get in these big-time marquee matchups.
Going back to the analytics thing, it's always fascinated me, and I've always heard some people say that while analytics is a new term, it's been around for a while, especially in special teams.
Yes.
What is your background of special teams, kind of introduce you to analytics, I guess?
Oh, big time, especially, I mean, the smallest things, like in terms of like even wind, right? And so just having an understanding of what you need to change based off the settings you get. And they change every week, right? The matchup isn't the same week in, week out. The matchup against San Jose State, very different than the matchup against Montana. So just having the flexibility to make changes, to make adjustments in game, I think is huge. And I learned a lot of that, like you said, from my special teams days. Just again, wind, what's the points, right? Are we up? Are we down? How much time do we have left? So all those things are definitely things I've been thinking a lot about, even as a special teams coordinator, and certainly a lot more now as the head coach.
Any more questions? Just to ask about the injury report, Coach. You guys had a few more guys out this week compared to last week. How's that look going forward?
It's hard to say on a Monday. Normally I would say for you guys, asking those questions on a Thursday is going to be probably easier to give you information on. We're, normally with those game time decision guys, or even guys that got a little bit dinged up, you find out a lot more tonight when they see our team doctors and things like that. So we'll have a little bit more clear of a picture on Thursday, but don't see some of the long-term guys that were out returning. And I don't really think that there's any guys that got injured in this week's game that won't be available.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, is analytics more predictive if you're ahead or behind, or does it make a difference?
Well, it's all relative, right? The analytics change based on what the score is and what the time of the game is. So it's a very fluid situation in terms of our game book. So it's really dependent on, again, where we're at in the game, where we are on the field, what down it is, how much time is left. So those things definitely change quite a bit depending on the situation.
But the quality of information is good either way, if you're up or if you're behind.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's the same. It's not the same information, but it's held within the same place. So for us, we're just, where are we at in the game? What is the score of the game? That'll determine what the analytics kind of suggest for us to do.
Any more questions for Coach? Thanks, Coach.
Awesome. You guys are great. The best. Thanks. Visa.
I would renew my plug for those yellow jerseys with black numbers. They really show up from the press.
Well, hey, you may see him this weekend. You never know. We'll see. All right. Thanks, guys.